You're still searching for that breakthrough that always feels just out of reach. What is your true life path, and how do you finally find it? Welcome to Say It Anyway, the podcast where we help you unlock the breakthrough you've been waiting for so your true life path can finally come to life. Each week, we share powerful practical tools you can use right now to start transforming your life. You'll hear raw, honest conversations with people from all walks of life, people who found their way forward and are here to share mindsets, strategies, and wisdom that help them get there. I'm James Ferrigno. I've helped people reconnect with their power for years. I'll guide you beyond surface level solutions into a deeper way of seeing the world, one rooted in connection, courage, and open-hearted dedication. This is your space to think differently, live boldly, and finally do the thing you were meant to do. Let's get started. Welcome to Say It Anyway. I'm James Ferrigno, and this is part 2 of our interview with Sarah Devine. So you've kind of blended the two. I really like when you can look at a practice and see that the traditional thing or the scientific approach, you can see how the two kind of combine and how they share the same basis and the same ideas.
That's right. And, I mean, there are a couple of outstanding people that helped us to shape that understanding in White Tiger Qigong. One was Joseph Schwartz, who's a physical therapist in Colorado, and um, he's got this really useful toolkit that talks about the kinetic chains and their principal actions in the body, and so how movement is predicated on, first of all, how you breathe, then how your axis is aligned, so your central axis, axial stability, how you react to the ground, so what's your ground force reaction, your shock absorption and your rebound, and then also how the body coils and uncoils. So when you walk, for instance, that's one of the drivers of that is that your hips and your lower spine, they actually rotate. So there's coiling and uncoiling in walking. When you see catwalk models, they over exaggerate that, right? They really, get into that. So, so then Tevye worked with him to kind of understand how those principles were present in our Qigong. And the other guy who's really interesting is Thomas Myers, and he wrote a book called An Anatomy Trains. And this book shows how the muscles of the body are held together in fascial slings. So you can even think of the body as one massive muscle that's held together by all these slings, and they have different different impacts on the body. So you've got your spiral line for these cross actions. You've got your lateral line. You've got very superficial lines in the front and the back, and very deep ones as well. You've got arm lines, for instance, front and back. So when he started to study fascia in more detail, he discovered that for the most part, the maps of meridians or channels of qi for acupuncturists, in Qigong, they map onto his understanding of the fascial slings or these fascial lines. They're quite similar. That's so exciting. Yeah.
It is. I see things like that a lot.
Mm.
It seems to be the case mostly. If whatever practice it is really, effective and beneficial for a lot of people, then it will always map up to that to some degree. Yeah. Yeah, it's really fascinating how that works.
And I love that. I love just that. At the moment, I'm working with a couple of rheumatologists. So I had this amazing opportunity to speak at the Australian Rheumatological Conference in May, and I spoke about Qigong for chronic pain. And I gave a little demo. I got them involved as well with a bit of movement. And of course, I needed to find a lot of evidence, because this is the world we live in. You have to really move forward, especially in any kind of more conventional medical circles, to have that body of research behind you is rather important. You could tell people till the cows come home, but unless you have that behind you, it's not really considered to be worthwhile. So this is great because both of these chaps already are aware of Qigong. One of them's a long-time practitioner, and they're very supportive in that regard. But B, they've helped me find the research and to continue to put together a body of evidence that hopefully exposes that there's no doubt that Qigong can ameliorate symptoms of chronic fatigue, chronic pain syndrome, and fibromyalgia and arthritis, albeit with a very sensitive approach and a modified approach, because some people can barely sit up when they're in those have those conditions. So that's really exciting. That's the kind of work I'm doing at the moment, sort of looking at developing further how I can help people in those situations.
So are you currently working with people who have, those conditions or others?
Yes. And it's nice to talk of a success story. There's one lady in Victoria who has been practicing regularly for three or four times a week. She's been doing 20 to 40 minutes a day, and she has just experienced that she can go out and about more. She's able to go on extensive walks, which she couldn't before. She's losing the brain fog. She's feeling a lot more capable and happier because of that. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, when someone you're working with, when it really benefits them. Yeah, a few things are more exciting than that. It's nice to be able to help somebody like that.
Yeah.
And have you seen other people react well to it? Do most of your students tend to react well?
Yes, I don't really have an instance of anyone saying, I really dislike the way this makes me feel, I'm not going to do it again.
Okay.
So from a short-term perspective, there's even research out there that shows one bout of Qigong for 30 minutes has an impact on your cortisol levels. So it brings them down, which then is going to reduce the stress response. And it can have an impact on anxiety, for instance, as well. So just bringing you back into emotional balance. But the real proof of the pudding is in longer studies. So there's a particular researcher I know who's got several studies about Taoist Qigong in particular, and they've run them like 1 or 2 months of people doing it regularly several times a week, and all their biological markers are improved. So that's just fantastic. But I have had people walk away because they don't like the terminology. They're not really interested in it's hard for me to teach Qigong without mentioning Chinese words, because it's you go your dantians, your upper, your middle, your lower, the places of energy cultivation and storage. They didn't like that. They didn't like one of the techniques that we use is in a smile. So you actually physically lift the corners of your mouth, and there's evidence there also. If you hold your mouth up for a minute, it starts to alter your hormones. It starts to change them. So even if you feel like absolute crap, you can just do this for a minute and influence your chemistry. So a lot of our emotions are driven by chemicals, and the way our hormones may fluctuate as well. So this is one thing, but that person didn't like that practice. I mean, we're not that we stand there like grinning like loons. It's a slightly different mechanism. We go into the mind, we think about something that makes ourselves feel good, and we direct that energy that we've created through that thought into the body, into the heart, for instance. So yeah, not everybody's ready for Qigong, but everybody I work with locally who's stuck at it and had, you know, given it time has been really appreciative of the practice. So on a physical level, it may be that it improves health of the spine. We do a lot of spinal flow movement, flexibility, strength, balance, stamina, agility. On an emotional level, we work a lot with clearing emotional blockages, and as you know, emotion can stagnate in the body in many different places, and especially in the organ systems. So we work on clearing that, and also using the breath is a huge component of settling the nervous system and engaging your capacity to balance more effectively between your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous system responses, going more into the rest and digest more readily and more easily, rather than staying stuck here in this low grade sympathetic response, which is, you know, so common these days. So taking people into that deep state of relaxed alertness, they like that. They really like that. And then that brings mental clarity as well, and emotional balance. So what's not to like?
Fantastic.
That's what I say.
Yeah. What's not to love about that, right?
But you know what? The main impediment is commitment to process and continuity. And I understand that that's difficult for people to find the time. I practice every day, and I know that's not tenable for most people, and nor would I expect them to necessarily appreciate it in quite the same way I do. But finding even, you know, 3 times a week, it's probably where you need to go in order to affect lasting change over time.
Yeah, most likely that. Yeah, I found the biggest impediment really for any practice, anything really you want to learn or do or anything new is it's difficult for most people to change and start something new. The truth is, no matter what the change is, probably most people aren't ready for it. So some are, you know, but you know, they
Yeah,
have to find the thing that they are ready for.
That's right. That's right. And it may be a baby step, and that's fine. I think it might have been, there's um a guy, oh, he's a fitness guru or instructor. I think he's Greg Plitt, but I'm not sure. He said get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So that he's talking about that from a gym context, of course, but I think, you know, that applies to anything you're going to do that's going to drive change, because first of all, you have to, your mind is, you know, a monkey, as we all know, and you have to learn to release it, and what we call that in Qigong is releasing the acquired mind, or even becoming aware of your acquired mind, first of all. So a lot of what drives your patterns of behavior is, maybe it's not from your authentic self. It's from what you learned from your parents or your school, or, you know, eat 3 meals a day at these times, do this, do that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with eating 3 meals a day at that time, but maybe it doesn't suit your body type. Maybe you've not listened to what's right for you. So behaving in certain ways in certain contexts, that could just be something that you've learned from other people. And it's very hard to peel back those layers and become conscious of that. And you know, it's sitting there in your subconscious, a lot of that behavior. To track it, you've got to be very brutally honest with yourself, but also take the time to listen. And so one of the biggest things we do, most important things of processes in the Qigong, is internal listening. It's ting jing, the process of listening to your energy without your ears. So and eventually that in martial context, that is what people use when they're for instance in Tai Chi, Qigong, that's the kind of Tai Chi for martial application, or in martial arts themselves. you feel the energy of your opponent, and you feel it, and you feel the impulse of a thought or an action, or the potential before it even happens, so you know what to do to counter that effectively. So in medical qigong, we use that to understand ourselves, that deep internal listening, and that's the place from which you're able to make more effective changes. But it requires courage. It requires in a way, it's loss as well, because you lose the person you're familiar with. You have to let go of some of those things about yourself in order to discover who you might be. And it's, the old monkey on the branch thing, you got to let go of one branch before you can grasp the other one. So yeah, and you can't force that. I've tried. I'm sure we've all been there, where we've like been kind of righteous and gone, but you need this and you should do that, and I can see that you would feel better if you did this. But ultimately, that's not going to work, right? So all you can do is say, hey, I'm using these tools. These work for me. This might not be your journey, but give it a try. Perhaps it will resonate.
Yeah, it's just one of the things you might want to try. Yeah, it's impossible to share something with someone and then we're setting up our own expectations of, I'm going to give this to them, they're going to take it, it's going to help them, it's going to change their life, and they'll be happier. But that's a lot of expectation there, and a lot of those things probably aren't going to happen. So yeah, it's always, it's a bit of a razor's edge, sharing things with other people. It's good to just kind of throw the ideas out there and let the people come to you. I mean, you have to in some way let them know that this thing exists, though. So
true.
That's
true.
That's where it gets a little sticky. Like, and if it's people around you have to share something with them so that they will know that there's something to choose there. But
exactly, and I certainly learned that lesson in the past. So hopefully I'm able now. I'll just step back a little bit, and part of that is learning to practice humility and just and honoring other people's perspectives. And I'm still learning that, because I have friends who I adore deeply who are very different to me, and sometimes I'm quite surprised at what their perceptions are, and now I'm able to take a step back and go, hang on, or if I'm not, I might have to apologize and eat humble pie. But but then I do think about it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, your experience of the world is different to mine, and think about how many billions of souls there are on the planet, including animals, and we've all got a different perspective, and we're all seeing the world from slightly different eyes, and we've all had these different inputs, and so you've got to well, you haven't not got to do anything, right? That's the point. But you hope to, at least in yourself, to find that place of softness, because I can't say my way's right. It's a way, but it's a way that's working for me, and it's a way that is time honored. So what Qigong is actually, it's been around for as far as 5,000 years ago. The shamanic Wu people in China were utilizing kind of these forms of expressive movement, like animal movements, to maybe it was more about symbology then. I don't know whether it was for health, but 2,000 years ago, Huatua, who was the physician to the emperor, he created the 5 animal frolics and the 5 animal qigong, because they were looking for a way to keep the people healthy that was cheap. And who doesn't want, not to spend money if you're running a country? But that, and so he observed how animals behave, and what excuse me, I'm just gonna have a sip. What's their modus operandi, and what are they doing in the morning compared to the evening? For instance, we've got a deer that when it wakes up, it raises its antler. So you've got this beautiful movement of coiling and uncoiling the antler, and then it goes. It peeks its head. It moves to look out and check everything's safe. Then it goes for a long run. So off you go. You walk. And I'm going too fast there, and then finally it settles down and it slaps its leg, and where it's actually a stomach point, so it's helping its digestion.
Oh,
Yeah, I love
interesting.
that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
And
And
so these people have been, doing these things for centuries, and they've had healthier, happier lives because of it.
yeah, it sounds like it'd be quite beneficial. What kind of changes do you see in your students just commonly? What like what kind of things seem to happen with your students, emotionally, psychologically, physically?
I see people saying that they feel they have better relationships with those around them because they are able to respond rather than react. So that's a big part of it. So the more you can take those moments to settle your nervous system and settle your awareness into the body, and even let go of all the cessation of all thought and all drivers, is something that helps people to find that place where they're a bit more peaceful in their interactions, or that they have a kindness response rather than an aggression or frustration. Or if they have the frustration or the aggression, they're able to have it then inside, but then withdraw it and reflip it, reframe it. I still experience that one when I'm driving. I'm quite choleric when I drive, and I'm like, I get this moment of frustration or annoyance, and then I'm like, oh, hang on, I'm part of this problem as well. So, but it's funny.
Not just
I laugh at myself as soon as it comes up. So that's one instance. Then in terms of direction of focus, that's the other thing. So being able to focus more effectively on one thing. And I don't know if that's more of a thing that women have typically struggled with. I don't know. My experience with men is that they're better able generally to have that focus, and so I see that in some of the female students that I have, that they are better able to focus on one thing.
Nice.
And then in terms of physicality, the spine, that's been a huge one. So unlocking the spine. Sometimes people start moving and they're like wood, and there's barely any movement, especially in the thoracic spine, but the lumbar spine is often sore. And so to do a movement which we call the wave, for instance, where you imitate this rolling of a wave in the spine. And over a number of years with some of the students, it's really unlocked their spinal flow, and that is going to actually, we say it, it makes you brainier because your cerebrospinal fluid is flowing more effectively. It requires movement. We have, yes, a little bit of movement when we're still, but really when you breathe correctly, there should be a response in the spine. There should be a very slight pelvic tilt, and anterior pelvic tilt, and then a posterior, and that activates your sacral pump, and then up into the cranial pump as well. So this is something that I've really witnessed, and also balance. So that's a big thing, especially for my older students, to to be able to stand on one leg or to move to the side. So lateral movement is something we don't do very often in our everyday world.
Yeah.
And there's quite a lot of lateral movements in Qigong. And then I was teaching snake the other day, which can seem quite daunting. It's a movement that takes you in every which plane of motion. So you've got one arm back here, one across here, your body's slightly rotated, you're in this stance where one leg's bent, you're taking the weight on one side, you're stretching long, and then you catch your prey like this. And just that very physicality of it is toning the body, and that people just feel better because of that. So I see all of that. Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Hmm.
Really like that. So, what do you find most rewarding about what you're doing, teaching people?
Well, I've always been a person who enjoys engaging with others, have that extrovert streak. And so I love that aspect of teaching, because I get to, these windows into the world of others and insights into their journey. And it helps inform my practice, because and the way that I teach, because each of those reflections from somebody else helps me to, add to that sort of palette or suite of experience. So I know how to respond or adjust to certain types of people or situations or conditions. So I really enjoy that sort of engagement. But above all else, I think it's the sense of collective peace that we achieve in a class, or even if I'm working one-on-one. But one of the wonderful things that often happens when we're in the park is, over a period of time during the class, we get surrounded by birds, and they'll come closer and closer. And it could be ducks, it could be magpies, it could be the little Murray magpies, it could be the ibises, and they just get closer, and they've even come and pecked our feet before when we were standing doing the standing meditation. So that says to me that there's something visible, or at least palpable, in what we're doing, that the animals can sense, and they feel comfortable with, because they wouldn't ordinarily come quite so close. So I really do love that, and I feel that as well, and so do the students. They feel a connection, and when we feel that connection, it's easier to navigate the times when you feel alone. You feel alone, but you're not alone, or you feel down, or you look at the world and you think it's completely mad, and you feel sad, and you feel frustrated or disenfranchised, or um somehow incapable of doing anything. But you come back to this, and you come back to that feeling, and that collective sense of belonging, and that there's more that you can do. And by bringing that peace locally and spreading it through each of those students out into their environment, that's some way I can assist the world. So I love that very much.
When you design a program for a student, or when you design a workshop, how do you meet people where they are?
That's something that obviously is really important to consider. You can't just sort of throw something out there and hope that it will land appropriately. So I guess we can think about it in the context of, first of all, thematics, and then content. So thematically, I look around for what's sometimes I look at what's trending and see how I can interweave Qigong into those trends. So, like, for instance, breathwork is something that a lot of people are aware of at the moment. So I will look at how I can instigate a workshop, for instance, on Qigong breathwork, and I'll highlight the differences between just a regular breathwork session and what Qigong breathwork actually is. In terms of content, knowing the audience is quite important. If I'm working with people with a very specific group, for instance, the people with rheumatological conditions, I actually get them to give me information prior to the session. So they'll fill out a little health and wellness questionnaire for me, and that helps me to understand their limitations and to really come back to the lowest common denominator. So I'm certain that I'm able to offer something that everybody can do. If it's a more general workshop or retreat, I generally know the type of audience that's coming. I have a sense of, for instance, their age, and I'll just ensure that everything that I am planning to present will have a good capacity for modification. So modification's a really important part of this process. The thing about Qigong is it's not like going into CrossFit or something where you're just, you're gonna go all out and that's it. It's a practice that meets you where you're at. So that's the central tenet, if you like, and that's I guess I sort of pride myself on being able to offer that to people with that in mind. So even if somebody's only able to do a couple of minutes of movement standing, they can continue doing it seated. So I'll take chairs, or I'll have to, be in a place where there are chairs, and I will make sure that everybody can be part of the experience. So there's very few people that couldn't participate. If somebody's has schizophrenia, there are, certain caveats to them joining in some of the practices, for instance. Or if somebody's, seriously ill and has cancer in an organ, I wouldn't want them to be squeezing out the organ by moving in a particular way. So there's caveats, and I would also make sure that a medical professional had signed off on them being able to do what I teach. Yeah
that's good to hear. So that it's designed that way to begin with, to be for most people.
Accessible is definitely the way to go.
So what are you excited about next? What's coming in the future?
Oh, well, I'm actually teaching in Newcastle in January, which is on the east coast of Australia. I know there's a Newcastle in England, but I'd like to teach there too. But I'm doing a workshop there, which I'm rather looking forward to. It's in a beautiful nature reserve. Then I'm going back to Vietnam, where Tevye lives currently, and I'm assisting him at a teacher training in Alba Alba Wellness Valley near Hue. It's such a beautiful place. It's so conducive for the practice, and just it has an amazing onsen. So every night we go and have a nice spa, and we get a massage, and we feel really good. But I'll do some training with him prior to that, so some private training. Then I'm holding a workshop in Perth for a couple of days. I'm hoping to hold one in the UK, because I'm going over in April to see my family, to celebrate my 60th birthday. And then later in the year, I'm going back to Vietnam to train in circle walking, or baguazhang, which is that very dynamic practice of moving and walking in a very particular way around, for instance, a tree, a vase, to transmit or to receive energy from the object, and there's a lot of sort of complexities involved in that. So that I'll be an almost absolute beginner there. So I'm really looking forward to that. But above all else, I just want to find ways to get other people excited into doing the practice. So just keep finding new routes into the the teaching experience as well as the learning experience.
Fantastic. Wow. Great things coming. So,
Yeah.
final question. I always like to ask this. So, what if you could just give people one piece of advice, something to do if they're stuck, if they're not sure where to go next, just one thing that maybe they could do?
Just breathe. So how many times do we actually stop and smell the roses? Do we stop and really listen in, really even observe the way that we breathe? So for most people, they may find that when they do stop and listen to the way that they breathe or observe the way they breathe, that they're breathing quite heavily into the chest. So if we're talking about a simple practice, it would be to sit with an upright spine, to place one hand on the lower belly, one on the chest, and just observe where you feel movement. And start to send your intention into the belly. Imagine you've got a little balloon or a little ball there that's just being softly filled with air. And then as you inhale, you feel that very gentle expansion. And as you exhale, you feel it release, like the air is being removed. Another image I like to use is a flower, like a lily on a pond, and it's opening up and then it's folding its petals in for the night. And that feeling, and just coming into this feeling, just breathing for a few minutes into the belly. It takes your awareness out of the mind, it takes it into the body. It helps to calm the nervous system. It helps to settle and settle your organs as well. And it just gives you that sufficient distance from whatever it is that's bothering you to be able to then get a slightly different perspective, step back, and to remember that you're an observer. There's a part of you that can control. It doesn't have to be controlled by your emotions or your reactive thoughts. So, and I think the breath is the quickest way into that.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And one thing
nice
that, and it's not Taoist, but it's Ram Dass. He says, remember, we're all just walking each other home. And I love that. It just reminds me to find kindness. So for myself as well as others, because we're so hypercritical generally of ourselves. And you can be your harshest taskmaster, mistress. So
absolutely.
yeah, finding that kindness is an important part of that process. But I loved your question, James. I really loved everything about this interview. It's been really nice. Or this discussion, this talk. It's
yeah.
Me
too. Yeah, I think I had a really, really good time.
It's woven itself well.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants to reach out and ask any more questions, just look me up. I've got a website and with my name, and yeah, you can find me.
But you might as well. What's the web address?
So it's just sarahdivineqigong.com. And that's divine DIVINE and Qigong QIGONG. So you might, there's CHIKUNG is one way of spelling it, but for this purpose it's QIGONG. Qigong.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I notice there's other Sarah Divines out there, so you have to include the Qigong part.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there I was thinking I was the only
Yeah.
one.
uh, the only one of yourself. So
Yeah,
thank you,
exactly.
Sarah, so much. It's been a real pleasure. Real pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. I've really enjoyed being able to share my passion. And hopefully maybe there's a few people listening who might be curious enough to come along and try some Qigong someday.
Yeah. And I'll put in the description, there'll be some contact for you.
Thank you.
All
Thanks so
right.
much.
All right. Thanks. Have a great day.
You too.
James Ferrigno here. And it would be great if you guys could subscribe, like, follow whatever platform you're seeing this on, because that really helps me be able to continue the podcast. And so if you can do that, that would really help us out. Thanks a lot.